Hey everyone, I am very excited. If you looked at the thumbnail for this link and title of this link, you probably have an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. I have with me the wonderful Bettie Brickhouse. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to have you here, and I have a bunch of questions written down for you, and I want to let's just start off because I know a little bit about you just because I've read profiles about you and I've read things that you put on the internet. But like what you do, you have like a bunch of different job titles, don't you? And it's like all kind of, but it is all sex work or it's not all sex work. You tell me.
So I work 9 to 5 right now as in marketing.
Okay.
I have my MBA, so I do have a day job. And then in the evenings and on weekends, I also do a variety of sex work, which has sort of branched out from where I first started, which was sex work.
Okay.
I'm doing session wrestling, which is this whole subculture that most people don't even know about.
I didn't know about it until I started reading your profiles and stuff. So, which is, I mean, it's fascinating in itself. So where did you start then? Because you say you started in like non-sexual sex work, and then kind of branched out from there. Is that, or why don't you tell me more about that?
So session wrestling is where specifically mixed session wrestling is where a guy contacts one of the many session wrestlers out there and asks to spend about an hour with them doing really anything from a variety, from starting with fantasy sessions where they want to do role-playing scenarios like a landlord and a person getting into a fight, or someone robbing a house, and then they just start wrestling, and there's like head scissors and body scissors, all sorts of like pins that you can do. Some people do real competitive wrestling, which looks just like what it looked like when you were in high school and there was the wrestling team, except between a man and a woman. And most of the session wrestlers are bodybuilder types, with a spattering of larger women like me.
Yeah. I saw on one of your profiles, it's like, I think it said you could like flip a 250-pound tire or 270-pound tire. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing. That in itself.
I've been strong my whole life, and that's how I kind of got into it, was that I wanted to capitalize on something that I actually had a natural talent at, which is beating other people up.
And getting paid for it by the people you're beating up. And somehow they're okay with it. That's the wonderful part of it, right?
They all have a variety of reasons why they want to do it. It's not always sexual, and it's not always a domination thing, which was really unexpected for me.
Primarily what you do is the session wrestling, or you kind of do a bunch of, you do cam modeling as well, right?
So I do session wrestling, pro dom stuff, which can get pretty dicey on whether there's escorting involved, in the sense that some people want strap-ons, and that's really hard to define whether that counts, at least in the prostitution world. And then I also am on seeking arrangement and other types of sugar sites. While I advertise as an escort, I'm trying to think if I've actually taken an escorting client randomly. Like, they've always been people that I intended having ongoing relationships with. So it's kind of hard to say. So I do have a lot of experience in that world. It's just sort of a different thing. It's been like one thing to another. Like today I started filming clips. Now, am I a porn star?
A little bit, but no, I don't know. Like, that's a good. So, is this the first time you've done clips? I could have, or no?
So I filmed non-sexual clips with another girl, Katie Mallory, that's her cam name, down in Louisville, but I never posted them because I only had 4, and you need 10 to open a clips for sale store.
Okay.
And I've done filming for other people's videos, like that was porn, but I don't know if those people, like, there are people out there that sort of use porn as an excuse to get escorts. Like, it's not really porn, it's stuff that's for their own personal collection.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll ever go on the internet, if that makes sense. And so I've done those before, but I've never seen a video with me in it, I guess is the answer to that question.
It's possible there's clips on the internet somewhere, and it's possible technically it was porn, but it was never distributed.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was not like, if it was anywhere, it's not like a viral Pornhub hit or anything like that. And like, I'm sure people took clips of me camming when I was doing camming, because that's a pretty common thing for people to do, is like record you while you cam. So I'm sure that those are out there too. But I also used a different name when I first started camming, so I don't know if there's any clips out there with my current name.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind me asking how, like, the Bettie Brickhouse brand, how long you've had that?
A couple of years. I started using a name that was sort of like it was Lorella, which is like rereading the letters from L'Oreal, which is a book that I like.
Okay.
But it didn't mean anything, and it didn't sound very dommy. And since I was sort of like branching out into the dommy world at the time, and more of the wrestling world, I was also dating a guy who owned a dungeon. And he was enthusiastic about me taking on more clients and using the dungeon. I asked for an idea for a name, and so we kind of went with something that was a little silly, but also still, like, it sounds wrestling-ish, you know.
Sure,
the Brickhouse part is silly.
I mean, I don't think the silliness is a negative at all. I think that there's a certain level of adorableness about it that makes it all, like, I mean, it's like with stripper names of like Cinnamon and Bunny, you know, it just, like, I think it's appropriate to have a little bit of silliness, right?
Yeah.
You know, you actually kind of mentioned a little bit about this earlier. You said with like I think you said with an ex-boyfriend or a current boyfriend, how do relationships work outside of sex work or with sex work as a profession?
So I'm actually polyamorous, which means that I date multiple people, and so do my partners. Mm-hmm. So for them, it doesn't make much of a difference, because it's me having sex with other people for pleasure, or me having sex with other people for money, or me doing an activity for money. I imagine that most escorts that are in relationships have some type of arrangement, because I can't imagine the jealousy level of, you know, a female escort being able to have sex with, you know, hundreds of men, whereas him not being allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like, there has to be some sort of conversation there that seems Absolutely. Like there definitely seems to be a disconnection there. I mean, is there a concern with STDs? Because, I mean, you're with multiple relationship partners and multiple work partners, if that's the best term for it. But, I mean, how does STDs or, I mean, is there concern there, or how do you deal with that?
For me, it's a pretty consistent concern, but I'm very careful to use condoms with pretty much everybody, except for, like, if I have a partner that I'm living with at the moment, mm-hmm. and then that person is usually also not using condoms with everybody else. Yeah. If I have someone that I'm particularly concerned about, then I'll even use condoms for oral sex or dental dams. If I'm planning on doing something with my hands, I have gloves that I will use. If there's concerns about fingers, like having a cut on my finger, in general, those are all pretty big safety precautions for me. And I also get tested very regularly. I haven't quite figured out how regularly I want to get tested moving forward, but definitely once every 3 months minimum. Probably more like once a month is where I'm going to be at.
Yeah. Have you? I mean, I hope this isn't too personal. I mean, have you ever had scares or anything? I mean, it sounds like you're doing all the right things anyway. But I mean, have you?
So I had a partner in the past pre-sex work who actually contracted gonorrhea.
Oh.
And I did not get it. I don't know how, but actually none of his other partners got it. It was just one particular female partner that came to him and said, I have gonorrhea. No, and I had to have gotten it from you. And everyone else tested negative for it. So I don't know how that worked.
Everyone got lucky. Everyone got lucky. Except for him.
But he and I were not having PIV anyway. So, and there's less chance contracting it orally, and there's a general statement. Yeah.
This is kind of, I thought I would have a better segue going from STDs to just general safety. Have you... I don't know how appropriate that question is for you, because you told me that it's like you're much more selective and it's a different situation. But I mean, is safety a concern for you, or in this work, or
with wrestling? Absolutely. Even though I'm pretty selective about people I choose for the actual. I'm selective about who I choose for sexual intercourse because I'm concerned about STDs and I'm concerned about sharing myself in that way. But I almost don't want to devalue the sex that I have with personal partners. I've seen several sex workers who are friends of mine become more and more, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. They're less intent on having sex for fun, and sex becomes more of a, I feel like you become desensitized is I think the word I'm using for it. They're just not as interested, and they expect everyone to sort of pay them if they're going to be giving away their services. And I don't want to feel that way about sex. But with wrestling, I absolutely freak out every time. I have a taser, I have brass knuckles. Like some of these dudes that I wrestle, like I don't know what they're going to look like or how big they're going to be when they show up at my door. And like I've had a 6'7", 400-pound dude show up before. And at the time I was 180 and I was really concerned. It turned out that we really couldn't wrestle at all. And he just wanted to cuddle with me at the end. Which was
That's kind of sweet. That's super sweet. But anyway, I'm sorry, go on. I'm sorry.
It was really sweet, and it was kind of sad because like I knew that he hadn't had like a girl touch him. He hadn't had like it had been a really long time. Like he just didn't have intimacy, and like that's what he wanted from me. But like I definitely had some pretty bad wrestling situations where they didn't try to do anything or hurt me, but I left feeling not so great about it. Like one guy had a prosthetic leg, and he didn't tell me in advance. And it's really hard to wrestle somebody with a prosthetic leg. And because like you have to use your legs a lot for wrestling.
He didn't tell you in advance? When did you find out? When he opened the door and he was wearing shorts, or?
I found out when he showed up and he took his pants off. And like all he was wearing was boxers, and I was like, "What the fuck?" and I don't think I said it like that. I think I was very polite. I think I said, "How does this work with your wrestling?" And he was like, "Oh, I keep it on," and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I ended up banging up my leg really bad during that session because like I typically go for like I wrap my legs around their legs to try to destabilize them, and could not do that. That was not an option.
So we could fill an entire interview with just that story. That's
Well, somebody recommended on Twitter that I write a book on some of my weird session wrestling experiences and some of the emails that I get, because, oh my God, do I get crazy emails. So maybe you'll have a chance to hear the whole story.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would both love and cringe to read those emails, I'm sure.
Oh, they're bad. I mean, I've been posting a couple of them on Twitter, but I've got to look up some of them.
Was that the? I hate to ask this question, but was that the worst situation, or what's the worst situation you've ever been in?
So the worst situation was with a guy that I was having a sexual relationship with. We had met in advance. We'd gone to coffee, which is pretty standard for me. Which is one of the reasons I think I feel a little bit safer than other people when it comes to that stuff. I do have a friend that's been sexually assaulted as a sex worker. Yeah, I've never had that. But so I met this guy for coffee. We had a lot in common. He was a doctor. He was really cool overall. And so we made it an arrangement to meet. He picked a hotel that was under construction. So I had a really hard time getting in there. And then he told me his room number. I showed up at his room. As he and I had established that he was more dominant. But we hadn't talked about, when you go into a scene with kink, you talk about medical conditions, you talk about limits, you talk about what's okay, what do you like?
Oh yeah.
And I had mentioned in passing some of the things that I liked. We definitely not had this negotiated conversation. So I was not expecting for me to open the door and for him to literally throw me against the wall immediately. And he so he was immediately ripping my clothes off as soon as I walked in. He got in a room with 2 double beds, which I was very confused about, because he ended up checking out as soon as our session was done.
Okay.
And he started making these terrible growling animal noises.
Okay.
And I don't know if he was thinking that he was being primal or sexy or something, but it sounded like a tiger dying. So
I don't even know what that sounds like.
I imitated the sound for my friends afterwards, but I don't know if I want to do it on a YouTube channel. So I was trying to not laugh at him while he's ripping my clothes off and groping me intensely. So he immediately throws me on the bed and then goes down on me really aggressively, biting me, which is not when you're giving a woman oral sex for the first time, biting should not be your go-to. If you take anything away from this video, there's some things you should do first. There's this really great app OMG Yes that I highly recommend. That'll give you some you can literally use your finger to test out women's genitalia. It's this 3D app. Okay. Anyway, so he started biting, making these animal growling noises, saying that the doctor was in and needed to investigate, that the doctor needed to check me out. He was talking about himself as a third person, oh, the doctor's in, baby. The doctor's in. The doctor's got to use this. You've got to use this probe on you. And I never. He luckily put on a condom while I didn't pay attention. And he just came up and went in again. No conversation about any of this. Choking me, pulling my hair. And apparently he has an oral fixation. So he was also moving his tongue around rapidly, even when he wasn't going down on me, as if he was going down on me.
Okay.
So he had a couple of kink toys. So I grabbed the blindfold and put it on because I was done. I could not watch this situation anymore. No more.
I don't like, that's kind of like the best response. It's like, I'm just gonna not be a part of this and be a part of this.
Exactly. And like, he didn't want me to touch him or do anything to him. Like, was really bizarre. He just wanted me to lay there and be a pillow princess, I guess. So like, he kept alternating back and forth between like fucking me and using his mouth. And then he decided that he wanted to make me come. So he started like, use like 4 fingers, which that doesn't work for me either. Like, that's very painful and will usually cause me to bleed.
No.
Like 4 fingers to like rapidly try to finger me. And he was like, I'm going to make you come. I'm going to make you come. And he was like, I want to make you squirt. You got to squirt for me. And he said it for like 10 minutes straight until I finally peed on him so that he would stop. I didn't. And he thought that I squirted. And that was the end of that. He thought that our situation was done. I had another one that was not great either, but it's less funny and more disturbing. Like, which is only like last weekend's. And this guy, like, he didn't tell me he had a farting fetish.
Okay.
And so, like, after having me go down on him for literally an hour, I counted because I was watching the clock. Only not because like I care about the clock, but just because my mouth got tired and I was trying to figure out if there was something wrong with me. And like, because I usually don't have a problem doing that for a long period of time. An hour is a bit excessive. So after going down on him for an hour, we started having sex, and then he was like, have you ever had a girl watch you go to the bathroom? And I was like while we're having sex, like, he just brings that up. And I was like, I don't know what to no. And he was like, oh, so you've never had a girl fart on your titties? And like that, like, it just like, it escalated from there. Like, he was like, he started talking more and more. And then he started asking me to make farting noises with my mouth while we were having sex. And he would only stay hard if I made farting noises with my mouth.
Okay. So, I mean, I assume that was extra. Like, no, I don't know. Like,
I should have gotten paid a lot more for that session, let me tell you. And then he started poking my nipple and saying dookie, like poop. But he didn't explain why. He was just sort of mumbling under his breath. Like, so it was very, it was just strange. It was just a very strange encounter.
I'm not even sure how exactly to respond to that.
I didn't either. All I knew is that he was like, I would really like to see you again Thursday. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. And then I spent like most of Sunday with an ice pack on my jaw and decided that no, that was not happening again.
Oh, that's like, I guess, so like, you can take this however you want, but I have an open mind, and I know that everyone has their things, you know what I mean? So I try not to be judgmental, because whatever noises get you going, like, good for you. But I mean, like, is that, like, do you think that that's, I don't know how to say this, but it's like, I mean, I feel like it's easier to bring that up with a sex worker than it would be with like a partner. Do you think that's true, or is that just me making an assumption, or what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I saw a guy post on a board like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to hang out with this weekend. And then like I contacted him, and then he was like, oh, actually, I'm looking for a full-time mistress who will have sex with other men in front of me. Mm-hmm. Like it just escalated very quickly. And that's because he knew that I was a sex worker, and that was like acceptable. That sex workers are definitely where you can get your kinks, taken care of.
Sure.
Like, most of my clients for wrestling have been married. And like, even though we're not having any type of setup, I'm not even nude. Like, I'm wearing, I wear like a sports bra and shorts. It's not a sexy outfit. Mm-hmm. It's not even stripping, but it's because their wives are not interested in dominating them. They're not interested in doing anything with them in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. They're not interested in trying this wrestling kink of theirs. And I can't think of one wrestling client that I've had that has had a partner and who knew about it. Now, as I hang out in the kink community for my personal life,
the partners didn't know, like, so like your client's partner, so like your client's wife or client's husband didn't know about the session?
no,
Okay.
they never, even though it's not, in my opinion, cheating because it's not nudity, they don't tell their partners about it.
Mm-hmm.
They say that their wife would kill them. Thing that I hear. And it's like, for me, that's kind of strange because I just don't grasp why this particular thing is unacceptable. Like, I would do it in front of the wife if she wanted to make sure that we weren't having sex, if that's the issue. But people are very afraid to bring up their kinks to the people that they love. And sex workers are definitely an outlet for that. And men, on average, have more fetishes than women. Which I think is one of the reasons that you see more men seeking out sex workers than you do women seeking out sex workers. Because there's just, and it's fine if he had that fetish, like in the story of the farting noises, you know, it's just that he didn't bring it up until we were already having sex.
So it was the timing that was really the issue. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I may not have taken the session, to be honest, because I try not to have sex that I don't think will be enjoyable for me. That's part of why I don't consider myself like as a standard escort. If I could guarantee or like assume that most of my clients and I would have a good time together, then I think I would be a full-time escort. It's just that I don't anticipate that being the case. And like, I have good stories showing that isn't the case. And I don't even always have good sex with people in my personal life, much less in my professional life.
Yeah.
So I really like sex. I have a high sex drive. So I want to enjoy these experiences I have. Just like the wrestling, I really enjoy wrestling. So I want to make sure that the experience is a positive one for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would have taken that session with him because it's not my fetish and I did not enjoy it. And it honestly made things awkward for me, and I was embarrassed because I was making farting noises while having sex. And like, the only way I could get him hard was to make farting noises. And then like, he wanted to talk about girls farting on my tits and like how stinking my farts were, like specifically, like, and he kept asking me whether I would take a dump in the toilet. And I was just like,
yeah, no, I again, I'm trying to stay open-minded for this guy, but at the same time, that's not my thing either.
And I'm definitely a big proponent of your kink is not my kink. Like, I know there are a ton of people that have adult baby diaper fetishes, and that is certainly not my kink. I don't wish to engage in it at all as an escort, but I bet you I can find a sex worker who loves it. Yeah. And, you know, even I filmed today with these two girls who are both wrestlers, and one of them does, like, she has a bunch of baby stuff. She does have an adult baby diaper client, and she thinks it's fun. It's not really her kink, but she at least gets something out of it.
Yeah.
I know it's actively not my kink.
Yeah.
Like, it's, there are things that are like, oh, that's not really my thing, but I'll still do it because I think somebody else will enjoy it. And then there's things that are like, no, I don't want to do this at all because they actively gross me out. And like, I have a hard time not gagging. Which is really unappealing when you're having sex with somebody.
Yeah. No,
and like, I have a really wide variety of kinks, so there's no reason why, you know, just because there's a couple that I don't have, like, I'm sure I could find somebody else who has them.
Yeah. Wow. Do you talk with a lot of other sex workers? Because I mean, you talked about some of the wrestling. You did some wrestling, and you've done a little bit, but I mean, do you talk with a lot of other sex workers? Is there like a Sex Workers Anonymous club that you go to and talk? No, like, I don't know.
So I have one of my best friends is an escort in Louisville, and she is moving up to Chicago next month. And so I talk to her every day. And then I have another very good friend who I mentioned earlier, Katie Mallory, who's a cam girl, so totally different kind of sex work. And she's in Louisville as well, which is where I moved up from last year. And I talked to several session girls, plus I chat a lot with girls on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another friend in town in Chicago who's a pretty active sugar baby. And so in the context, I think I said a little bit about it earlier, but not quite a lot. You know, sugar baby is usually you have sort of an ongoing relationship with a guy who gives you an allowance, or he doesn't usually pay you per visit. He pays you an allowance, and then you guys can negotiate how often he gets to see you and communicate with you for that allowance.
I see.
So
Okay.
I think that's what that differentiates it between escorting, is that escorting is like you go to see somebody and then they give you $400. You know, with being a sugar baby, it's like, okay, I'm giving you $400, or I'm giving you $1,000 per month, and for that, I want to be able to see you 2 times and communicate with you throughout the week.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it seems like such a small differentiation. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it is a really small differentiation. Maybe it's, I don't like the term escort, or maybe it's that I just really prefer to have ongoing relationships with people. And I feel like more of a guarantee for me to get sort of that ongoing client than escorting, where they may or may not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I noticed that your video is lagging just a little bit, and I think that I am squeezing the most out of my internet right now. So I'm gonna wrap up here. One of the things we talked a little bit about, you're totally cool to come back in a couple months, or a month or something like that, and answer viewer questions, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is what I want from my viewers is I really want you to put comments on this video of things you would love to ask Bettie Brickhouse and get direct answers about, because as much as I have questions for you, I think your questions look right in the camera. Your questions are going to be a lot better than my questions, so I want to know, and I would love to have an excuse to have Bettie back here. Is there anything else that you want to say before we call it a night?
Sign the petition to repeal FOSTA SESTA.
I've done that. And I think everyone else should. It
makes it unsafe. It doesn't make it unsafe for people like me. I'm privileged in the sense that I still have a day job, but it makes it unsafe for people that rely on this as their income, which is a lot more than you'd think. And it's really hard out there right now for them.
Yeah. You know, I'm just going to quickly say, because a lot of people don't even know what FOSTA and SESTA are. It's relatively recent legislation that's gone through the House and Senate, and it has made a lot of websites shut down. I don't want to get too far into it, because I mean, we could honestly talk an entire video about that, and frankly I need to do a video about that, but I think it has a lot more negative consequences than it has positive consequences, and you should absolutely go do the research yourself about them. I'll go ahead and put the link for the petition in the description down below. I think there's only like a 30-day window, so if you don't see the link there, we might be out of the 30-day window. This might be an old video. You might be watching this in like 2019, in which case that link is no longer active. But so I think that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I was, because when I just posted, would anyone like to do an interview, you raise your hand, and it was wonderful. So thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.